Kamala Harris's first ever puncturing the Fox News bubble and doing the thing that the Republicans accused her of being unable to do, well, you have something big on your hands. And the outpouring of reaction well beyond political news tells you that as well. Politico said Harris goes bear hunting, a play on the words of Bret Baier. Headlines noted this was contentious, testy, and on television, the medium we live in here, it was exactly 24 hours ago to the minute when the interview was wrapping up, and pundits have been weighing in.
Vice President Harris, for lack of a better term, matched the energy that Bret Baier brought, while also being able to get her message out.
She certainly landed some blows on Donald Trump.
I'm baffled by the lack of preparation going into a high-profile, the highest-profile interview she has.
She essentially walked into a Trump campaign field office. It showed that Harris was tough.
She came to Fox News and she wanted to have a go after Donald Trump viral moment. I think she may have gotten that.
Bret Baier kind of commenting on his own scoop and saying she may have gotten the thing she wanted out of the interview. He has also been going online and sort of trying to address his viewers' concerns. The New York Times noted lots of viewers were surely eager to hear how she'd respond when confronted head-on. Mr. Baier did not give viewers that chance. He cut off several Harris answers after, quote, a few seconds. His first interruption came within the first half minute of their exchange. Now, Mr. Baier has long argued that he is some sort of fair, balanced, nonpartisan hour or foothold on Fox News. As you can see there, the New York Times and other nonpartisan reviewers didn't exactly find it that way. Did not find that Mr. Baier approached Kamala Harris, the sitting vice president and presidential nominee, the way he approaches other interviews. The half-minute mark, for example, is earlier than when he interviews many prominent Republicans. That's not an opinion. It's certainly not an attempt to swipe at someone who's on, admittedly, in the same hour as this. It is just what is being said after this very high-profile moment of a very interrupty, very talking pointsy set of exchanges. There was also this very interesting clash because, remember, Fox has paid out for defamation. They've been caught lying to their audience on these very political election issues, and they have a problem with their whole Trump thing. So it was very tense when Baier was caught by the vice president for something that at best was misleadingly edited, and at worst, you could argue, was a kind of deliberate deceit to cocoon and help Donald Trump and sanitize his very alarming rhetoric calling American citizens enemies.
They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So, Bret, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
You see that it was kind of one-on-two there because she's running against the former president, Donald Trump, and trying to debate those issues, but also having to deal with the Bret Baier editing apparatus. And that revealed an interesting and heartfelt, you might say, exchange. She certainly, we follow her campaign, she certainly looked more intense, more vigorous, more powerfully rebutting that than she has in other calmer settings. I want to show you another moment where you have the interruption as they tried to discuss the facts on immigration.
The point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions...
I'm not finished. We have an
It's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
Now, if you want to be lighthearted, you could say it reminds you of any debate you've seen between friends or family, especially if it's heated politics, and one person says, I'd like to finish, and the other person says, well, I'd like to finish, and now you have two people trying to finish. The difference is Bret Baier claims he's not there as a Trump surrogate doing a debate. He claims he has a different style and is being fair and just doing an interview. Let me finish might raise questions about the otherwise. Then, when it comes to her criticisms of Donald Trump, Baer tried a tactic of saying, well, if he has support and these things you say about him are true, then what does that say about his supporters and Americans?
This is an election for President of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people.
One, interesting exchange. Two, Bret Baier falsely stated a number. We'll show you the facts first. Trump didn't even net 47% in either of his campaigns. If Donald Trump had the 50% that Mr. Baier falsely said, maybe it was an honest mistake in the heat of an interview, but if he had that false number of 50%, well, he'd be finishing his second term. Obama veteran Che Komanduri is here with us on The Big Interview, Harris's first time on Fox News. How did she do? Was Baier fair and balanced?
She did great. And no, Baier was not fair and balanced. It reminded me of the movie Gladiator, and she was Russell Crowe in the Coliseum, and they're throwing everything at her. And I half expected her to turn to Baier and the camera and say, "Are you not entertained?" Because this was MAGA entertainment. This was not serious journalism, what Bret Baier did. If you had a Trump spokesperson like Corey Lewandowski conducting that interview, large portions of it would have been the same. I mean, it was just a regurgitation of these talking points. And to show that misleading clip where Trump is doing damage control, or really doing a bad job of it, damage control on the statements about the enemy within and not showing the accurate thing of what he said. I mean, Bret Baier has been around long enough to know what he was doing there. I thought that was really, really terrible. But Harris did great. And the reality is that this is part of a strategy. Strategically, they have to reach white working class voters in the Midwest, many of whom live in homes and communities where Fox News is on all the time. And this is a group that is targeted by the campaign, and they reached out to it. The other thing is more emotional for voters. Harris has to seem or has to appear tough. That's just the reality. She's a woman candidate. We have never elected a woman before. It's really unfortunate, but it's very similar to how Obama could never be angry. If you remember, Key and Peele did the anger translator, because Obama could never be angry. Harris can never appear to be weak, unfortunately. She has to always appear strong.